Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich. Welcome to Crime Talk. This is our Tuesday night show on Wednesday nights because, well, I had to do a little bit of traveling yesterday. And I assure you, man, I wish this was not the week that Crime Talk 1 was in the shop for its annual inspection that is required of all aircraft every year. Let's just say I did a lot of driving. I was just telling Frank, he didn't know about it because we haven't really talked since I got back, but I did a little day in the life of, little video. I'm going to send him all the little videos so he can put it together and show you what I did. Yesterday I got to drive to the Eastern Plains, drive back for a proffer, and then got to drive to the Western Slope, another 4 hours that way instead of 2 hours the other way yesterday. So yesterday was a lot of driving. It was a 7-hour day. Long day. Did court this morning. Client got whacked by the judge. And then I got back here to the office to do some work and some show prep. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. Okay. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. You know the drill. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, hit that button, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. It matters. Why? Because you get those little views, and then, YouTube in their ultimate wisdom says, hey, maybe someone else is going to like this channel. And, we are on a goal. We're trying to get to the end of the year at 200,000. I'm not sure we're going to make it. Only way I can do it, need your help. Anyway, a lot to talk about today. And I want to talk first about the Laurie Vallow case. And in particular, I want to discuss the motion that was filed by Mark Means, the attorney for Laurie Noreen Vallow, a.k.a. Laurie Noreen Daybell, because, I want to show it to you so you don't think I'm making this stuff up, okay? But he peppers his motion with footnotes, and basically, sounds like the defense attorneys, Mr. Archibald and Mr. Means, are not getting along. They have complete differences of how the case should be handled in regards to mounting a defense. And on top of that, Mark Means all but blames the judge for creating this rift in the attorney-client relationship between himself, Mark Means, and Laurie Vallow by appointing Mr. Archibald. Okay? Now, as an attorney, you're supposed to always do everything in the best interest of your client. It's not about you. It's about what is in the best interest for the client. And at the end of the day, if you're not sure what to do, you always protect the client. That's just the general rule. Protect the client, protect the client. But sometimes if your representation would becoming a distraction, you may want to think about withdrawing, okay? And one of the things a lawyer should do, this is why you get a lawyer, is that they're supposed to be able to remove themselves from the emotion of the battle and give good advice, okay? That's why I always, people don't like a lot of the analysis that I give sometime because it doesn't go along with kind of their decision that they've already made, that somebody's guilty or somebody is innocent. It doesn't really matter because I'm just telling you the way it is. This is the law. These are the facts. My opinion could change based upon usually more facts coming around. And that's what a good lawyer is supposed to do. Your lawyer's not there to tell you you're a great guy. It's all going to be okay. Okay. Sometimes the lawyer has to have some real tough conversations and say, what are you doing? Okay. You're going to lose. And, you could be looking at spending the rest of your life in prison or possibly even a death penalty. So you need to let's kind of cut our losses. Sometimes winning is not losing bigger than is possible. So Mark Means filed this declared defendant counsel response and objection to motion for contempt. And we talked about the motion that was filed by the prosecutors, basically saying, Mark Means is incompetent. He's loose cannon. There's really nothing that he should be doing on this case. He's not qualified, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it. So Mark Means files this declared defendant counsel response and objection to motion. Says, come now, defendant Laurie Vallow, by and through her attorney of record, Mark Means of Means Law, and hereby responds to the prosecution's motion for contempt to this court as follows. The prosecution's unsupported, ill-timed, and malicious attempt at slandering the defendant and defense counsel Mark Means regarding the unethical, quite possible unconstitutional actions of the prosecution and the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare agents in its blatant manipulation and coercion of a mentally ill defendant, Laurie Vallow, is the equivalent of victim shaming and should be immediately dismissed by this court without a hearing, and the prosecution sanctioned for its blatant misuse of public funds and positions of power. The depth this prosecution is willing to go is shirking its heightened ethical duties to appease the personal vendetta against Mr. Means in this manner is a cause for his disqualification and or withdrawal from this matter. The concerns of this miscarriage and manipulation of justice in this matter is set out as follows. Now, those are some pretty crazy allegations. When you start saying, unethical, you start throwing the E word around, boy, you better be absolutely correct. Courts don't like that. And then, so page 2. I don't know if we can put that up on the screen there. So here's page 2. Mr. Wood, let's see if I can move this down just a hair. This is Mr. Wood made it blatantly obvious of his desire to have my office withdraw and or disqualified in this matter to his off-the-record coercion, manipulation, unethical, threatening treatment of Mrs. Summer Shiflett prior to Ms. Shiflett's statement to the Rexburg Police Department. Do you get this? He is still trying to litigate the interview that Mr. Woods did with Mr. Shiflett. Remember, they had a whole hearing on it. Attorney regulation was brought in, and no misconduct was found at all. And he wants to relitigate it. He includes attachments in his motion, which is the transcript of the Shiflett interview that he's still trying to relitigate. That's done. Move along. The motion goes on and says, in the recording since then discovered, responses are unequivocally delayed by the prosecution. Mr. Woods engaged in further slanderous action, insulting attorney Means and called him a material witness, April Raymond, the bane of his existence, and the further reference to his LDS status as a bishop member in, again, attempts to build a straw man case of an unethical foundation of sand. Now, let's take a look at this. He puts in those little footnotes, okay? And I can tell you, usually courts tell you, and writing people will tell you, you don't put in a footnote, maybe reference to something, but you don't put in a whole new paragraph. If it's worth writing something this big, you would put it in the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? You would put it actually in a paragraph, okay? So he puts down in here, in this little thing, it says, Mr. Archibald. Okay. Anyway, it's referring to this incident up here. And it says, Mr. Archibald is not interested in investigating this matter based on what appears to be Mr. Wood representations. He would not call LDS attorney as a witness. This approach, if allowed by this court, is the ultimate sweeping under the rug. The Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, LDS attorney, prosecution should be immediately investigated to see how deep this manipulation has occurred. By victim shaming and bullying tactics, they appear to be concerned of what an investigation will unveil. Like, what? And then it goes on. Okay, this is page 3 of the motion. And I've highlighted the starts as kind of, goes on, saying he's material witness, blah, 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 blah. Regarding the facts, this is page 3. Okay, this is page 3. Much like the agents of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, this prosecutor is attempting to use his ethical status and position of authority to circumvent Laurie's constitutionally protected right to counsel, right to her choice of counsel. Because remember, a defendant does have a right to their choice of counsel. The clear, self-evident manner this case is being prosecuted is quite simply the ends justify the means. Removal of attorney means by way of accusation of contempt due to obligatory advocacy for Laurie is not only illogical, but laced with malicious personal undertones in a misguided attempt to redirect the court's purview to further investigations of this matter in a special basically asking for a special prosecutor, discovery subpoenas, and criminal depositions. Well, we already talked about criminal depositions. That's not going to happen. And then this is where, going down to paragraph 4, surrounding the warrants, Laurie's currently incompetent, unable to stand trial, was manipulated by the agents and employees of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare to make a statement to the LDS attorney, who is clearly not his attorney, knowing full well that Laurie has counsel. Well, that's all but pretty much been resolved, that really nothing was said. But this is the part that gets me. He comes right after the court. Furthermore, this is an attempt to continue to drive a wedge between co-counsel in the defense of Laurie. This court, sua sponte, appointed Mr. Archibald as a death penalty counsel in a case of which no death penalty notice has ever been filed in this matter. Well, it hasn't been filed because, why? Because she hasn't been competent. They haven't even made it to first advisement yet. That's why. So the motion goes on. She's incompetent. Sorry, lost my point of reference there. The court, sua sponte, appointed Mr. Archibald's case in which no death penalty has been made. The court appointed Mr. Archibald, and is self-evident that there are competing theories of defense and avenues of advocacy, or Laurie, as illustrated in this matter. The conflict is a direct assault on Laurie's right to counsel of her choice and an unnecessary interference to his right to a unified defense imposed solely by this court, blaming the court. And then they talk about goes on to complain about the court, but then at the bottom he states, please note a Utah State Bar complaint has been filed in this matter with request for an investigation. So I'm not sure who, he doesn't state who he's filed a bar complaint against. Is it the court? Is it Mr. Wood? Is it Mr. Archibald? It's mind-boggling to me. And then on page 6, it goes on here. Look at this. Look at this. This conflict is a direct assault on Laurie's right to counsel, blah, blah, blah. It's to her rights to a unified defense imposed solely by the court. Finally, Mr. Wood's reference further ex parte communications with this court, of which my office would not notify nor allow the opportunity to participate. This reeks of an attempt to conceal a guilty conscience. What the heck? I mean, this is kind of just weird stuff that, I mean, those are allegations that you're putting in a motion. You're signing your name to it, basically accusing the court of creating a conflict between the court-appointed attorneys. The court appointed Mr. Archibald because Mr. Means was not death penalty qualified. Everybody knows the case was going to go death, and then there was the issue regarding the competency issues. But they're going death on Chad Daybell. They've all but said they were going to go death on Laurie Vallow. So the court, on its own, sua sponte, appointed Mr. Archibald. And as I always thought it was funny, I was like, wow, Mr. Archibald's name doesn't appear on any of the pleadings. And whenever there has been something going on, I think there was one appearance where Mark Means appeared, didn't say anything, just kind of sat there, was maybe on a phone, but then got disconnected, had another hearing. It was just kind of weird. But just the weird ramblings, like he's the only one that can kind of represent Laurie Vallow, and, you know, he wants to go back and relitigate everything and say that Mark Means is, or I'm sorry, Mr. Wood is somehow has a conflict and the court got it wrong and the court's created this issue. I mean, I just read it and it's one of those things where you're like, maybe the bar is going to step in and, you know, make sure that he's there, and I don't want to say he's, what's the word I'm looking for? It seems like he's a little emotionally attached, that's for sure. But it doesn't do your client any good if you have such hostilities towards the prosecutor in this case that you're not going to be able to work with that particular district attorney, because you're going to have to work with them. And at some point, there may be plea negotiations that take place. And if the defense attorney can't be there to communicate and work with that defense attorney or the prosecutor, man, that seems like you're not doing your client anything in their best interest whatsoever. It makes no sense to me. So like I said, he attaches in his motion the transcript that's already been litigated. Attorney regulation there in Idaho has done that. He includes the report from the doctor that he had that basically said that Mr. Wood intimidated the witness, and it must have changed their statements, what have you, of Miss Shiflett. So it's just weird that he's like relitigating that whole thing, like trying to say, well, you think I'm unethical. Well, I think you're unethical too, and I'm going to relitigate this. It's already found that there's no issue there whatsoever. So it just seems these filings by him are just absolutely, I don't know. I'd like to think it's not anything that I would hire whatsoever. I just do not know. So we can talk about that in a second. I want to take a couple of super chats here. This is a JASZZZ, and it looks like they're from India. Please let your voice be heard on 4th December. 14 innocent civilians were mercilessly murdered by the Indian Army in Nagaland, a Christian minority state in India. What's your take on this issue? Well, I'll be honest with you, Jazzy, I don't know anything about it, but hopefully, nobody's going to condone killing by the government anywhere, so I don't know anything about it. So I thanks for letting me know about it. I can take a look at it, but I don't know anything about it in India. That's for sure. Sorry about that. I wish I knew more. I don't know, some of these super chat things, some of them went by, but I didn't get a chance to see them really quick. Let me go back here a little bit. So like I said, part of our Tuesday night show, which is airing Wednesday night tonight, is that we take and answer questions that come through here. And I'm trying to look at these questions as they come by. And as we've always said, I wish I could literally sit and answer all of them. But sometimes when the super chats go by, it catches my attention, so I could try to do that. But we'll try to answer the questions as well. And so a couple things I want to talk about. Obviously, the Mark Means motion. We mentioned it the other day in a show that we put up, but really didn't have time to really go through it in great detail. Sean Newell, it sounds like Mr. Means is having a mental breakdown. You said it, not me, but I mean, the motions are just, they're getting a little crazier. I don't know. Stephanie Woods in her super chat, and Mr. Means in love with Laurie. He seems weirdly attached. I don't know what their relationship is. I'm assuming it's completely appropriate attorney-client relationship. But as I said, if you are so emotionally invested or have such animosity towards the prosecutor, and that's going to affect how the prosecutor is going to deal with your client, you have to seriously think that, hey, maybe it's time to step back. Maybe I'm just, not a right fit for this particular case. I've actually been hired. I was hired once by an attorney that had to deal with a particular DA. A case got reversed on appeal. And he said, will you come, try this case with me? I just can't deal with this particular DA. I'm like, well, I don't particularly love this DA either. But if she hates you more than she hates me, this could be a lot of fun. So let's go. We went back and we tried the case. We got a much better result than the first time through. I didn't do the trial the first time, but so yeah, it's just weird. I mean, why is he going back relitigating stuff? he thinks that there's this huge conspiracy. Okay, and let me just say, do I think conspiracies exist? I do. Okay, let's get it out there. I see it charged all the crime. What is a conspiracy? An agreement between two or more people to commit an illegal act. Conspiracies do happen. But I'm not sure to the extent that somehow the LDS church attorneys and the prosecutors and now apparently the court are somehow, what's the word I'm looking for, all involved in a conspiracy only to get Mark Means off the case. Just weird. Yeah, so I don't know. That's very, very odd to me. I don't understand it. I mean, I get accused of sometimes being not very, what's the word I'm looking for, sympathetic towards Mark Means, because frankly, I've just been very puzzled as to what he's done and what he's said. And Frank, do we have that video queued up? Remember early on where Mark Means said that he represented both Laurie Vallow and Chad Daybell, and then he said no, he didn't. I mean, it's very interesting to me, but I don't know. Don't take my word for it. Let's watch it. Let's roll.
The amount of resources that can be saved in order to allow that to happen, and given that I represent her husband, Chad Daybell, in the event that there's an issue there.
Mr. Means, have you ever represented any of the alleged co-conspirators that are set forth in the criminal complaint?
No, Your Honor, other than Mrs. Daybell.
Yeah, you saw Mr. Wood's face like, that's odd, because you just heard him state in open court on the record that he represented Chad Daybell as well. Once that attorney-client thing's been formed, you just don't say it never existed. It happened. It should have been a motion to disqualify at that point right there. But the court took that answer. I mean, I can't believe the court didn't take further inquiry of Mr. Means at that point and said, hey, I was here when you said you represented Mr. Chad Daybell and you can't represent both. And most courts are going to be like, I don't think there's a waivable conflict. We're talking about, potential homicide charges coming down. Not in my courtroom. I just don't see that happening. So, but you've got it right there. We brought it to you first. Mr. Pryor said no mitigation has even started. That was at the hearing for regarding basically setting the dates, and Pryor's like, hey, we're ready to go to trial. Let's do this thing. And as I recall it, always use your own memory or go back and watch it yourself. But I think he said that the fact that no mitigation has taken place, I mean, this would be a defense attorney's dream. You got a client that hasn't officially been advised as to the indictment of the murder charges. She's incompetent, so everything stops. In the meantime, you're out there doing mitigation on a potential death penalty case now. You're interviewing all the witnesses, talking about her childhood. Was she dropped on her head? Did she have a bunch of concussions? When did things change from her being a nice person to kind of getting a little more weird? Getting all the medical records, those types of things for mitigation that take place. So clumsy clairvoyance, that was my recollection. And Pryor saying, nothing's taken place. Are you kidding me? Like, what are we, almost 2 years into the Laurie Vallow matter now? I mean, almost 2 years. I cannot believe that this case has taken 2 years at all. All right. So we can talk about that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Okay. And we discussed the other day that, there are people in the courtroom that have really followed this case from the beginning. And the other thing is weird. Twitter shut down the account where somebody was in there doing a feed from the courtroom. Twitter shut it down, basically saying that it was somehow submitting false or deceptive information. But there's a writer, Well, the other day, Vicky Ward, she did an article, I think it was also in Vanity Fair, which basically was kind of followed the whole Maxwell deal with that guy named Jeff from the beginning, was really expecting, a big powerhouse punch from the government, and was really left going away like, is this it, really? Well, there's another gentleman, this is in Vanity Fair today, and he basically says, hey, I've been watching this case. She's facing 80 years in prison, and they're trying to punish the crime. It says the prosecutors are aiming to redress serial failures by the justice system to punish the crime of her partner, the late pedophile, that guy named Jeff, which is why it's shocking and tragic that the prosecution case against Maxwell appears to be far weaker than many people expected. The article goes on and says the list of prosecutorial missteps is long. Victims have appeared unprepared for cross-examination. High-profile co-conspirators have not yet been called to testify about Maxwell's alleged role in Jeff's child alleged sex trafficking operation. And on Tuesday, prosecutors stunned reporters in the courthouse viewing room by announcing the government intends to rest its case before Friday. This case was supposed to go on for weeks. Literally 6 weeks is what the government said they needed to present their case. And now they're saying literally after 2 weeks, it's done. And this writer, and just to give him credit because he's actually there, Gabriel Sherman, and he says, before the trial opened, he said he counted himself among the pessimists who expected this case wouldn't provide a full accounting of that guy named Jeff's alleged crime or expose the powerful men that allegedly participated in his depraved lifestyle. My view has been held throughout this trial. I was dismayed, for instance, the prosecutor, Laura Pomerantz, opening statement ran a short 35 minutes, roughly 10 minutes less than the government's opening argument in the Elizabeth Holmes fraud trial, which the defense rested today. I was also underwhelmed that the prosecutors didn't first call an alleged victim. Instead, they called the pilot. The perception in the viewing room was that the pilot testified more like a defense witness, claiming he never saw lewd sex acts with underage girls or sexual activity on a guy named Jeff's plane. It says testimony from Maxwell's alleged victim has been harrowing. On Tuesday, the third accuser testified that Jeff sexually abused her more than 100 times. The woman identified her name as Caroline, recounted that Maxwell often scheduled her massages with Jeff and once groped her while she was naked. In one heartbreaking moment, Caroline broke down and said, "My soul is broken because of Maxwell's alleged abuse." Prosecutors didn't follow up and asked Caroline the name of Jeff's friends. Her testimony was undermined by seeming lack of preparation by the prosecution. On cross-examination, Jeffrey Pagliuca, an attorney here from Denver, exposed inconsistencies in Caroline's prior comments on the case. Pagliuca noted that Caroline didn't mention Maxwell's name once during her first interview with the FBI in 2007. Neither did Caroline include Maxwell's name in subsequent lawsuits she filed against Jeff and alleged conspirator Sarah Kellen. The exchange went, your two lawsuits involving Jeff and Sarah Kellen say nothing about Miss Maxwell, correct? Correct. Your deposition testimony in 2009 says nothing about Miss Maxwell other than two words that Miss Comey read, correct? Correct. That's a good cross-examination, okay? They're agreeing with the answer, yes or no. That's it. Boom. It says, of course, the absence of Maxwell's name doesn't mean Caroline's story isn't true, but victims of sexual abuse or rape often change their stories as they process trauma. This fact is spun by the defense lawyers to undermine the victim's testimony. The prosecutor should have prepared Caroline on a similar dynamic played out last week during the testimony of Jane. Laura Menninger, once again, a Denver attorney, someone that I have done cases with over the years as co-defendants in cases, pressed Jane to comment on why her testimony differed from her prior interviews with the FBI. Jane seemed rattled by the questions, at one point alleging the FBI incorrectly transcribed her comments. And on Tuesday, the government suffered another embarrassing setback when Maxwell's defense revealed that Jane called her brother, who is also a government witness, and complained about the cross-examination. Why is that relevant? It's a violation of the court's sequestration order. So guess what? Now the brother no longer will testify. The court could have, probably not, going to go back, could have struck Jane's testimony from the record. So this observer, who's been in the courtroom from the beginning, said the weakest plank in the prosecution's case has been the lack of testimony from Jeff's innermost circle. Prosecutors haven't called Jeff's highest profile accuser, Virginia Roberts Jeffrey, to the stand, even though her name's been mentioned numerous times. These women conceivably could testify about Maxwell's role in the alleged sex trafficking operation. Why didn't the government gain their cooperation against Maxwell? And if they didn't cooperate, why did the government charge them too? Obviously, it says impossible to predict what the jury will do since cameras in the viewing room don't show their faces. But given the stake of the trial, the government surely hoped for an open and shut case. They had more than 500 days to prepare, and they didn't. Okay? So that's similar to what I had been following. The prosecution has not been doing very well at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and you never know what a jury will do. They could come back and say guilty to everything, but the defense has been giving the prosecution a run for their money, and who knows what is going to happen. But I assure you, by the time the jury goes back, they're going to remember the theme of the case, right? Memory, manipulation, and money. All the victims that have testified, their memory's been sketchy, their stories have changed, but they've done what their attorneys have told them to do to get the money, right? And there's been no direct evidence that says, oh yeah, they did. I mean, there was one witness said that Ghislaine Maxwell paid $100 to her, $300 after that guy named Jeff got a massage some 3 times a day. And, you want to talk about why aren't these parents being charged? Where the hell were these parents that are allowing an alleged 14-year-old girl to go give massages to a grown man? Those people certainly are not going to get, mother parents of the year. That's for sure. But it doesn't sound like the prosecution is doing a great job. And I mentioned this the other day, that the U.S. Attorney's Office used to be like the pinnacle, right? It used to be seasoned prosecutors went to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And then, I guess it's always kind of been that way, but, the U.S. Attorney's Office, because they all want to go to work in Washington, D.C., right? And so the Department of Justice recruits from all these, Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, and come work at the Department of Justice. You'll be doing God's work. You're coming forward to do justice. Well, the most of the time they sit in there and they do document review, which is the equivalent of what they would do as an associate in a big law firm had they not gone to the Department of Justice. And they don't get that much trial experience, most of them, because let's face it, to really cut your teeth as a prosecutor or a defense attorney, you need to be a prosecutor and defense attorney where you're doing a lot of routine, mundane crime type of stuff. That's where you gain that experience. I'm telling you, I've done a couple of trials, and I'm not saying they weren't good attorneys. They were very smart. Clearly much smarter than me. But I had a little more trial experience, and guess what? Walked them. And it wasn't because they weren't smart attorneys. They were smart. They went to law school. They graduated, all that good stuff. But they didn't have the trial experience, okay? And, the U.S. Attorney's Office is supposed to have like a 98% conviction rate. Well, that's because, 98% of the cases plead out, and the other 2 that go to trial, I don't know what the numbers are, but it seems like I've seen a lot of people saying not guilty in federal court. Now, if the government loses this case where they literally said, you can go back to the press conference, they said, overwhelming evidence, this is an open and shut case. Of course, why did they wait so many years, decades to prosecute it if it was so good? And you still have to wonder, Okay, why did they let that guy named Jeff off so easily when they were already prosecuting or going to prosecute him in the federal system, and they let him plead to some, misdemeanor sex stuff down there in Florida? All right, I mean, clearly the guy's connected, but that thing went all the way up to the top of the food chain at the Department of Justice. My guess is to the Attorney General himself approved that deal. And, now they all look stupid for not doing something. And, we got to prosecute somebody. Somebody's got to be held responsible. So we'll see. You never know what a jury would do. They need to be absolutely convinced. Ghislaine Maxwell is guilty. But people that have been in the courtroom, okay? And why is that important? Because if we can't watch it, you have to kind of trust the people that are in the courtroom. Just like when Julie went down to watch Barry Morphew's case down in Salida. She was there for the preliminary hearing, and she was like, well, God, on paper, this reads a lot better. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school here, Julie, but I think you said you kind of thought that he was guilty. But that's only one side of it, so to speak, and we don't have all the information when the affidavit comes out. And she was a little underwhelmed by the government's case at the preliminary hearing. Understand it is just a preliminary hearing, but it's so important. It's one thing to make an allegation. It's another to prove it and, back it up beyond a reasonable doubt to each and every element of the offense charged. And I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Good question here. Scott, can one become a lawyer even when they're in their 50s? Is there a cut of age wise to become a lawyer? I know it takes many years, but any kind of lawyer, I assume. Amy, you can go to law school at any time. I remember when I went to law school, there were people there that were second, third careers. I think we had one lady, God, she was in her 60s something at the time, and she just wanted to do it for the education. Go to law school. And frankly, I think, this is just my humble opinion, I think people that have a little life experience under their belt, frankly, have a much easier time with understanding the concepts because you've been in the workforce, you've been around, you get it. You contracts, a contract. Most people are like, well, what's a contract? Well, offer, acceptance, consideration. Well, what's consideration? It's a promise, act, or forbearance, bargain for, given in exchange for, detriment of the promisor, benefit of the promisee, right? Obviously, right? Somebody starts rattling that off to you, and they're like, what? What it really means is that I'm going to give you something, I'm going to give you money, you're going to provide services or a good, right? Consideration, just something to make it valid. If it's just, I'm going to give you money, I want to give you $10,000. Is that a contract? Well, I'm not getting anything exchanged for it. That's a gift. It's not a contract, not enforceable, those type of things. So I just think people that have a little life experience, get it. I mean, what was I, 21, 22 when I get to law school, and, you think, oh, I know stuff. And you're just like, wow, there's a lot of stuff out there. Suddenly, they're throwing the rules of perpetuity, subject matter jurisdiction, and you're just like, what the hell? And you look back now, it's like, well, God, that's such an easy concept. But at the time, God, it just seemed like so hard. And I think in reality, law students make things much more difficult than they need to be. And, law school students, they can be pretty harsh because back then, if they had a case, they have it in a textbook, but you only get an excerpt from the case. And you're like, God, that doesn't make any sense. So you say, I want to go read the case. And this is kind of before Westlaw. Westlaw was just kind of coming in where you just couldn't Google it and find it online to get the whole context of the case. So they're in law school, like, I'm going to go pull the book. And you go to the book and somebody's ripped out that case that you'd like to read because they kept it for themselves, which is just not cool at all. So it's just, so go to school, go to law school if you want to. Never stop learning. That's what I always tell everybody. Never stop learning. It's bottom line. If you want to go to law school, you want to go to law school. Now, the other case I want to talk about tonight was old Jussie Smollett. He testified at his trial. The jury is now deliberating his fate. And, I think any defense attorney will tell you, and any prosecutor will tell you, is that they understand if somebody wants to go to trial, okay? Maybe the offer is terrible. Maybe they just really, truly believe they didn't do it whatsoever. And you never know. Maybe the jury's going to say, wow, this Jussie Smollett guy, he just really came across as credible on the stand. And yeah, I know you knew these brothers because, they have this close relationship. Apparently there may be a little sexual thing going on between one of the brothers and Mr. Smollett, according to his own testimony. They would go to bathhouses and pleasure themselves or something like that. And, but it would make sense that you're going to, give, if you're going to concoct a plan, you're probably going to do it with somebody that you think you can trust at the time. But, they got video of everyone kind of converging all at the same team. They got at the scene. They've got Uber receipts of everybody kind of converging at the scene. I don't know. I wasn't there, on this date in January of 2019 where the supposedly alleged hoax went down. The jury could believe every word that Mr. Smollett says. Okay? And like I said, I think most defense attorneys, we've all had clients that are like, let's just go to trial. Okay? I had a guy once, he was serving multiple life sentences, had a case, and I'm like, why are we doing this? He's like, man, I'm in, supermax type of situation. This is like a vacation to me. He was in custody outside of the supermax. Like, this is a vacation. He's like, and the court reporter is really attractive. I'm like, well, I can't make you plead guilty. I can't make you do that. So, I don't have much to work with here. And, the client's like, I get it, but let's just go to trial. This is a vacation for me. Okay, sounds pretty good. He's not going to prison. He's going to prison. He's already there for the rest of his life. So it's like, okay, low stress trial, so to speak. But and lawyers, people think that lawyers can allow people to lie. That is not the case. So if a client came to you and said, I did it, and you don't have a self-defense type of claim, you can't have him get up there and say, I didn't do it, because he told you that he did it. Okay. And I don't know what Mr. Smollett's conversations were with his attorneys, but he's clearly stated that he didn't do it. Okay. And if that's been the client's story from all along, the client says he didn't do it, regardless of whether the attorney believes it or not. Okay. But the client says, hey, the client says he didn't do it. That's what he's always told me from day one. Not doing anything unethical. Let the jury decide. And the defendant always has the right to testify. Okay? They don't do it in federal court, but I've seen it in state courts. The judge engages, here they call it a courtesy advisement based upon a case. So I want to give the courtesy advisement. Okay, judge will say, you have an absolute right to testify. No one can keep you from testifying. No one can make you testify. Neither your attorney, the prosecutor, anybody can force you to testify or not testify. It's your decision. And you don't have to follow your attorney's advice if you choose to testify. Just so everybody knows, particularly the defendant knows that he has a right to testify, because why? There were people that were getting to prison like, oh, my attorney told me not to testify, and I had no idea that it was my choice to do so. And so the court said, well, we'll just fix that. We'll just make sure the court gives an advisement and make sure that everybody understands what they need to do. And, Mr. Smollett testified. He said there was no hoax. He admitted on the stand that he changed the description of his alleged attackers. He provided statements regarding, his involvement or contact with the Nigerian brothers, but said there was no hoax, that it really happened. I don't know. everybody has a right to make the prosecution prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, even if the damn thing is on video. I've done those cases, and not fun, because you just feel like a punching bag, when they start getting into the video and the evidence and what have you. But I'm trying to think, in those cases, the client doesn't testify, right? But when you testify like that, that's when the defendant, if the jury comes back guilty, I think this went from a case where Smollett could get just, probation. Now all of a sudden, if you piss off a judge and the judge thinks you got up there and lied, and the jury all but says you lied, if they find him guilty, it's the kind of case where Smollett could literally be looking at now going to prison. I mean, he should have just, call your witnesses, keep your mouth shut. They failed to prove their case, and let the jury decide. But he got up there and testified. And who knows, maybe that's the absolute truth. I mean, as an attorney, sometimes you hear of stuff that the client says absolutely happened. You think, wow, it's, I guess it's possible, but I didn't see it coming. But just when you think you've heard it all, you somebody shows up and tells you a story that you think, wow, I didn't see that one coming. Didn't think that was going to happen. And, some clients, weird things happen in the world. People put themselves in very precarious situations, and it just gets weird. So I don't know. We'll see what the jury comes back. Maybe they'll come back later as well. Danny Gable has a question here. Let's go back to some of the questions. Patty says, I had a law school classmate that was 68. Yeah. I mean, let's face it. If no matter your age, if you can get in, law school will take your money. So yeah, that's absolutely true. Diana Gable, Laurie's hamstrung by means and probably has no idea. Ineffective assistance. Appeal may be his strategy, as she has no one to depend on for her best interest. Means is all about means. Yeah, I don't think it's his strategy to be ineffective. But I think he's trying to try this case from a civil arena, so to speak. Civil attorneys are always throwing around, the other side was ineffective. The other side, not ineffective. The other side was unethical. Really? Okay. Bunch of keyboard warriors back there typing away. Come to court and tell it to my face, right? We'll see. We could always use another lawyer. And my mom studied to be an accountant at 60, Lula. That's right. James, I worked in asphalt, then went to concrete. Same thing, yeah. Patty says, I went at 30 after having been an air traffic controller. Real life experience is so important. I think it makes a huge difference. I really think it does. Do you think that they will charge when... let's see. Sorry, I saw that you saw and heard and telling you that. It's not true. Tell it. What about perjury? I don't think they'll charge him with perjury. I think convictions will be enough. They usually don't charge with perjury. I mean, we'll see. I don't think I'd do that, but you know how many times I think I've seen a perjury charge? I'm just twice. It's not charged that often. Usually when you see it is like some sort of false swearing, like, somebody forged a document on a title or something along those lines. You know what I mean? It's, yeah, I just don't, perjury's not charged that often. Yeah, Vicky, I went to got a master's after my kids graduated. Yeah, never stop learning. I'm telling you. I mean, even if I tell that to my kids all the time, man. Scott, if you could change your career, what would you do? Good question, Carrie. Well, I do love airplanes. And I'm not going to lie. The thought has crossed my mind. and maybe this is more for a Patreon since we really kind of get into that, but if I had to change a career, I think I would go be a pilot. But my problem is I don't think I would be satisfied with just being a pilot, because really, ultimately, I don't want to be able to be the guy in the back of the plane, but I'm choosing to be up front. And then I'd be like, well, gosh, maybe I should just like start a charter company. So, and I love flying. I really do. I think it's fun. It's challenging. But I wouldn't want it to become just a job, like, okay, I got to go do it. But, it could be great. I don't know. I think about that every day. What could I go do? If I wasn't going to be a lawyer anymore. Some days I think about it. Some days you're just like, man, I don't want any responsibility whatsoever. I don't drink coffee, so maybe I'd be like a good barista at Starbucks. You get that instant satisfaction. People are happy. If not, they're going to let you know. And that's the worst thing that happens. They get a bad cup of coffee. No pressure, no stress. I don't know. Maybe invest in real estate. Something along those lines. I don't know. All right. Well, I've got a lot of people viewing tonight, don't we? Scott, what do you think the verdict will be in the Duggar case? Obviously we're going to give him the presumption of innocence. The question so far in the Duggar case, and I didn't see anything come out today about the Duggar case. The defense was doing it, but I'm not aware of Duggar testifying in his trial. So I don't know if the court took a break today or what. I didn't see anything. The question is going to be, it's a battle of the experts. I mean, there's stuff on the computer that was at Mr. Duggar's place of business that he used, conveniently had his passwords. I mean, are these all just coincidences? Obviously, the theory of defense is that, how did those get there? Oh my God, that is disgusting. Somebody is obviously using my computer. Mr. Duggar is using his computer to store these horrific images. And this is disgusting. I can't believe it. I am such a victim. I cannot believe that these are here. That's the defense strategy. Didn't know they were there. I would never download anything like that. And you can't say that I downloaded them, even though it's my computer. That's their theory of defense. I don't think the defense expert necessarily came across, what's the word I'm looking for? From what I could tell, they weren't exactly hitting it out of the ballpark. But I wasn't there. I don't know. You always like to be able to see the jury, but even then you don't know what jurors are weird, and I'm not weird in a weird way, but you just don't know. Sometimes they keep a straight face, poker face, because they don't want anybody to know. They take it very seriously. Which way is leaning? Sometimes they wear all their emotions on their shoulder, and you know exactly like, oh yeah, we've got juror number 6 over there. But number 1, I'm not sure. He's had his arm crossed every time I stand up. He just crosses his arms, and I don't know. So if I was a betting man, particularly in light of the evidence that came out at the Duggar trial regarding his previous admissions regarding inappropriately touching his sister and other friends when they were younger, kind of indicates, under the 404B, absence of mistake. Like, even if I had this, I didn't know that. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't know that was there. And it's kind of like, and I don't even like, Mr. Duggar's sitting there saying, and I don't even like young girls. And then they're like, oh, really? Because that's really what the defense is, right? I didn't know it was there. Don't even like young girls. I am happily married and have 6 kids. That's the Duggar defense. And his wife is sitting in the back gallery there, supporting him every step of the way. And she knows him. So if I was a betting man, I would think that Mr. Duggar will be found guilty of something. That would be my bet. Not saying he's guilty. We'll just say I think the jury, they have evidence that could convince him, because we're going to give everyone the presumption of innocence, right? But that's, that's the defense, right? But, and 404B evidence isn't supposed to be used for propensity evidence, right? Because you have a right not to be tried on your bad acts that you've done, but can kind of be brought in for other purposes, right? We've talked about this before. Hold on one second here. This is an old book. But just so you know that I'm not, making this stuff up, 404B evidence, right? Let's just take a look at it. This is an old book, but the law hasn't changed in regards to that. 404B, character evidence. Evidence of a person's character or a trait of his character is not admissible for the purpose of proving that he acted in conformity therewith on a particular occasion. Makes sense, right? Sure, he may have busted into all those cars before, but on this trial, he didn't do it, right? Propensity evidence. He did it before, he's more likely to have the propensity to do it again, okay? But then there's a little thing called a comma, and then it says, except, : 404A, character of accused. In a similar case, evidence of a pertinent trait of his character offered by an accused or by the prosecution to rebut the same, or if evidence of the alleged victim's character for aggressiveness or violence is offered by an accused and admitted under Rule 404A2, evidence of the same trait of character of the accused offered by the prosecution. So basically, you can rebut it where you say you're charged with assault, right? Or murder. And the defense is, my guy couldn't have done it. He's a peaceful person. Well, you've opened up the door then to the 5 other guys that he's beaten up and, probably pled guilty to. Then 404A2, character of the alleged victims. In a criminal case, evidence of a pertinent trait or character of the alleged victim of the crime offered by an accused or the prosecution to rebut the same, or evidence, character, trait of peacefulness of the alleged victim offered by the prosecution in a homicide case to rebut evidence that the alleged victim was the first aggressor. Same thing. Okay? But here's the big one, 404B. This is what always comes in. And as a defense attorney, you hate it because basically you have to go back and relitigate the case. And there's even case law that says you can be found not guilty of the previous 404B evidence, and it can still come in because the prosecution only has to show by a preponderance of the evidence that it happened and that the defendant was the one to do it. So let me read this. This is really important, okay? Evidence of other crimes, wrongs, or acts is not admissible to prove the character of a person in order to show that he acted in conformity therewith. Right? Kind of repeats 404A. It may, however, be admissible for other purposes, such as proof of motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, or absence of mistake or accident, provided that upon request by the accused, the prosecution in the criminal case shall provide reasonable notice in advance of trial or during trial if the court excuses pretrial notices on good cause. Okay. You put that up there, Frank. Hold on. Frank's going to put it up there. You can read it for yourself right there so you can prove that Scott's not trying to lead you astray in any way possible. Okay. It's not evidence of the other crimes, wrongs, or acts is not admissible to prove the character of a person in order to show that he acted in conformity therewith. It may, however, be admissible for other purposes, such as proof of motive, right? Like maybe there's prior domestic violence things, like, somebody's charged with a homicide, and there was prior threats or something made. Maybe the person pled guilty to it. That's other crimes. They don't have to be convicted of it. But it is uncharged misconduct. If it had been charged, it wouldn't be admissible. But if you can say, well, it shows, we're bringing it in to show motive, Judge, that they really hate each other. Opportunity. That there was opportunity is a little more difficult. But basically, he was committing another crime at the same time, and then this happened or something. Intent, same thing. Preparation, plan, knowledge, identity. Like identity, somebody broke into a car and they always left a signature, maybe a business card, like a heart or something, to say this is, the heart car thief did this. So when they arrest the guy, they find the card on him. He's like, oh, I just picked it up. But if they can show that it is somehow related to him, it's other evidence that's going to come in against the defendant. So absence of mistake or accident, absence of mistake. Oh, that computer stuff. I didn't know all that bad stuff and pictures were on the computer. Oh, no, I wasn't aware of that. Oh, really? Because that's really what you're saying. It couldn't have been me. I'm a good guy. I don't do that kind of stuff. Well, but even though you weren't prosecuted for it, you said in Mr. Duggar's case, he admitted to diddling, his sister and friend as well. So it kind of goes absence of mistake. What is it really? Propensity evidence. It is propensity evidence. Hey, he did this stuff once to prepubescent girls. And guess what? We just happened to find prepubescent girls on his computer. What are the odds? What are the odds? That's really what that is for. So 404B evidence, see right there, character evidence not admissible to prove conduct. Exceptions. Other crimes. The state rules very close to the federal rules as well. Almost
the amount,
literally identical. So once again, Scott trying to give it to you as straight as possible, take you straight to the source, so you know that I'm not trying to lead you astray in any way possible. Okay, and that, ladies and gentlemen, in the rules of evidence. And even criminal procedure, they would spend about a week on this. I explained it to you in probably 10 minutes or less. And I assure you, I explained it better than my law professor, who had never tried a case in her life when she taught evidence. So I know I did it better than they did. Scott, please come on the loss prevention officer at Walmart that got into a shootout over Pokemon cards with a shoplifter in a crowded parking lot. Haven't heard anything about that yet. Did that just happen today? B? Haven't heard anything about it. Scott, what is the statute of the horse with human running legs? Please do comment what it is. I have no idea. Wow. I mean, I've only been out of the office for like a day, and boy, I feel like I've missed everything in the world here. Catherine B. commented, Vicky, that's amazing. Never easy with family when you're a hardworking mom. Yeah, no, but you got to keep doing it. Yep. Scott, what about the original DA, Kim Fox? Is she going to get in trouble? Well, she kind of got in trouble by the fact that the plea deal that she made through her deputy got thrown out, and she wasn't able to prosecute the case because she probably would have given Smollett another pass. So I don't think she's going to get in any trouble. And let's face it, DA Kim Fox has plenty of crime to go around there in Chicago. What was it, 549 murders or people shot over the weekend or since the year? I mean, it's some crazy number. I was listening to something on the radio as I was driving back, and it was something, maybe it was Philadelphia, 549 murders. Yeah, Philadelphia. Like, what the hell, people? Like, somebody needs to, that DA there, he basically says, it's not a problem. Not a problem. 500. That's not the problem. The problem is the guns. We got to get rid of the guns because that's the gun violence. Yeah, murder is going to happen. All the other stuff is going to happen as well. But I truly think, okay, and I live in a neighborhood. Let's just put it this way. They live a pretty sheltered life, okay? And when you got a bunch of soccer moms that are like, oh yeah, this is crazy and this is going to stop. And if we can't get somebody to stop it, we're going to stop it ourselves. Okay. People have had enough. Okay. I said it way back. You can go look at the videos, go back and say it. I said this whole defund the police thing was stupid. That's what it was. And I'll be the first one out there. If there are people out there violating, citizens' constitutional rights, accusing them of crime, I'll be the first one out there to represent them. But when you get rid of defunding a police department, a good chunk of it, and people are leaving and quitting, and they're just like, don't have time to get around to that, unless it's a murder in progress, probably, you're on your own. And that's really what it boils down to. If people do not think that you are on your own, you are being naive, okay? The big police departments, Oregon basically came out. They had a press conference. That was at Portland. Portland, Oregon had a press conference with their police chief and said, basically, we're not responding unless it was, I think it was a tier 1, basically a murder or some sort of indecent sexual act, assault taking place. Basically, get in line, take a number. Could be hours until we respond because they don't have the officers. They defunded the police, people left, and it's not like you just turn on a police department one day and say we're going to hire everybody back. It doesn't work that way. So part of me, and I'm not a big government guy. I'm not, and I certainly don't like police going around harassing people, but most of them don't. Most police officers tell you, like, we don't have to go out and look for crime. It usually comes to us. Well, look at the dumb criminals of the day that we talk about on a daily basis. You can't make this stuff up. A lot of people commit crime in front of police officers. And so they don't have to go looking for it. But and we want good police officers. I assure you of that. We want good police officers. We want police officers that are going to protect the community and to serve the community. Remember, they have to remember who they serve. And they need to be, it's really protect, serve and protect, all that kind of stuff. But it's really, you're in customer service like any job. At the end of the day, it all comes down to customer service. So we need good cops, okay? Prosecute the bad ones. I'm all for that. But getting rid of the police, who's coming? Okay? When you defund the police, and it's kind of funny, you see these politicians that are defund the police. Well, they got their own private security. Or when something happens, they call the police, right? Who's coming when you call the police? In Portland, Oregon, nobody's coming. I mean, the people responsible for Portland, Oregon should probably all resign. I mean, they have managed to mess up Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, you name it, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago. What the hell are these people thinking? It doesn't take anything. It doesn't take that much common sense, right? We've said it before. You get more of what you tolerate. If you tolerate crime, you're going to get more crime. Why? Because people are going to get away with it. So they're going to say, well, I mean, I got away with stealing a little old lady's purse. Nothing happened to me. Maybe next time I'll just go to little old lady's house and take all her belongings out of there. Like I said, who are you going to call? Who are you going to call? Because nobody's coming, right? I guess you could do that.
Send lawyers, guns, and money.
That's right. Send the lawyers, guns, and money, right? You better have your own police force, so to speak. We have some very high-end, affluent parts of town here where they have their own police force. Literally, they have security guards. Lawyers, what are they going to do? Stop? You cannot come in here. That would be a trespassing. No, I don't know. What are you going to do to defend yourself? I guess you better protect yourself with the guns, because nobody's coming, ladies and gentlemen. You're on your own. And I'm telling you that. And I've said this. I remember when I first met the lovely Miss Kristen. I said, really? You live in Denver? Because I didn't live in Denver at the time. And I'm like, what? Why would you want to live there? You know how much crime there is there? Like, if people knew how much crime went on, they would literally lock themselves at the house at night and fall asleep in the fetal position with a firearm close by, okay? And I still believe that now that I live in Denver, okay? It is, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And it's just the way it is, man. It's just the way it is. All the police are going to do is come up and read the report. They're going to put the little chalk lines around you. Oregon Deb, the stores in Portland are hiring their own security. Yeah, but guess what? What can they do? They're going to stand there and somebody comes in and does a smash and grab. Are they going to be able to be armed, right? Are they going to say, oh, we can't do anything for liability purposes? And, like I said, so I like police officers. I have friends that are police officers. Hell, I even have cops that I don't particularly like that we still get along, right? But the bad ones, we got to get rid of the bad ones. That's always been you can go back to the case. Some of my earliest videos, 99% of the cops are good, but they got to get rid of the bad ones, and the good ones got to stop protecting the bad ones. That's what it boils down to. And do they still use chalk? No, they usually pick them up and put them in the meat wagon before that. They just take pictures, if they're dead on the scene. If not, they come in and they just do it. But they take pictures. No more chalk these days. It's an example. So, Maddie, I left Denver in '93, never looked back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm telling you, it's see, Sarah Holt, Lawyers, Guns, and Money. That needs to be the new intro. I totally agree. I just love this song, right? I mean, I just need a little longer versions, but I guess there's like copyright stuff. So
send lawyers, guns, and money.
And you listen to the verses like, get me out, Dad, send lawyers, guns, and money, get me out of this. And then it's send lawyers, guns, and money. The blank is about to hit the fan or something like that. It's wouldn't it be nice to meet the lovely Miss Kristen one day? I agree. I have asked her to come on, and she says she has no desire whatsoever to be on this side of the camera. It was even a little scary for Julie when we had her talk about the Morphew thing. She's like, oh, I don't know about this. This is all, geez. Let's see. Rose, our news channel here in Denver talks about murders every day, another shooting. I live in the Plains, and there's so many people moving my way because of crime. Rose, absolutely correct. People are leaving the Denver metro area, and Denver is becoming so expensive to live. A lot of people are pushing. They're getting pushed east, and they're coming. They're going to come join you. But just remember, ladies and gentlemen, remember what you left. And I'm telling you, I went to Kiowa County, which is about, 2 hours east of Denver the other day for court. It's all in the little video. And I must say, I think, I don't have his card, but it's on the video. A sheriff pulled me over. Maybe I was going a little fast. But what do? You're very polite. You roll down the window. This insurance card is expired, but I can get it on my phone. He goes, oh, don't worry about it. You won't get signal out here anyway because I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. And I hand him my thing, and I think he sees my bar card or whatever. And, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm in a suit in the Eastern Plains. Driving a BMW, not in a truck. Who looks out of place here? This guy, right? But he comes back and he's like, hey, slow it down. I'm going to give you a warning. Here's my card. Slow it down. Yes, sir. Have a great day. I think it was Officer Tanner, Deputy Tanner. I think that was his name. Nice gentleman. Nice gentleman. I appreciate not having to get a ticket because I probably wouldn't have had much of a defense to. I was just maybe a wee bit over the speed limit. But you'll also see, as I was driving back, coming up today, up the Eisenhower, up the hill to go to the Eisenhower Tunnel, top of the National Capital Continental Divide. How long guys does it usually take you to get to the top of the Continental Divide, right? Oh, coming up from Dillon up to the Continental Divide, the Eisenhower Tunnel. Oh, real? Oh, I'm talking about, like, let's say you're bottom at the hill from Frisco going up to the top, right? I probably take 20 minutes, right? Yeah. Someone may have done it in 6 minutes today, and I could have gone faster, but for the fact of all the traffic, okay? And I got on video. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so you gotta be careful out there. But people are moving to the plains, and the thing about the plains, I'm telling you, the people are so nice, and it's not like the city, where I'm telling you, you go to rural America. The thing that I like about it is people's word still means something. If they say they're going to do it, they do it. They say they're going to get it done on time, they get it done on time, or they come to you and they tell you. It's not like the city where you just, nobody trusts anybody because it seems like everybody's on a hustle, so to speak. And I swear that some days I think, God, I got it. I'm just going to shut it down. I'm going to go move, South Carolina, somewhere in the middle of South. I don't know, maybe in the middle of, go to Wyoming, Montana, something. Maybe I'm watching too much Yellowstone. I don't know. Buy a big truck, cowboy hat, and just. But what am I going? What do I know? I don't even like doing yard work. What am I going to do? Start working on a ranch or something? I don't know. So yeah, Rose, I agree with you. The crime in the cities is unbelievable. Nobody seems to care anything about it. But you get more of what you tolerate. So if you're going to tolerate this stuff, man, it's kind of the old gateway crime. Hey, I got away with breaking into the car. Nothing happened. Let's try the house next time. I stole a little old lady's purse and got away with it. Nobody cares. Cops are too busy. They got to worry about, the carjacking or whatever that took place. So yeah, I mean, it's, you got to solve the little stuff. Otherwise you're going to have too much of the big stuff. What's going on these days? Alexa, sounds like you need a Porsche or a Corvette. I already got a Porsche. Although the new Corvette, not going to lie, looks pretty cool. That whole mid-engine thing looks like almost like a Ferrari. And my son was literally like, if I could find not an automatic, but a manual transmission, he goes, I think I'm going to buy one. Yeah. I'm like, I agree. Thank you. We're pretty nice out here, Rose. We help when we can. Love the rural area, big trucks and horses, of course. That's right. Everybody has a big truck. But let me tell you, so I go out to Kiowa County, okay? And I have court at 8 a.m. It's supposed to be set for a trial, but I won't get into it, but let's just say the client wasn't going to be there. And I show up early, like 7:35, and the place is locked up. I'm surprised I didn't just leave the door open and, tell you to come in. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go down to Main Street. So I go down to Main Street, and there's a little cafe there. I think it was called Patty's Cafe or something. Absolutely lovely. Lady was very nice. I said, hey, can I get, just a glass of water? And they had a daily special or something. And it was like $4, right? It had an egg, bacon, hash browns, and biscuits and gravy. And some of the best biscuits and gravy I've had in a long, long time, I might add. And it took like 3 minutes to make it and bring it all out. And they were just so nice and whatever. And, like the bill was like $4, right? I mean, that would have been $15 in Denver somewhere. I mean, seriously. Because they're not out to gouge you. It was just, this is the cost. And, I think I gave her a $20 bill just because I was so, I would have spent $20 anyway. So like, here, just make, hopefully, it, not that it's that much, but, make your day, so to speak. It's just a different lifestyle. and I like it. I love to see Body Cam Scott, especially getting a ticket. We can analyze it together. The best episode ever. Yeah, I didn't admit to speeding, anything like that. I was, hello, officer. How are you? I pulled you over going a little fast. Oh, was I really? Yeah, if I analyze that. I wish there was a Canadian lawyer as funny and knowledgeable as you. There's the Viva Frey guy. I went to a little YouTube camp with him. Viva La Frey. He's out of what's his name? He's a Canadian lawyer guy. Nice enough guy. But yeah, I mean, I'm Viva. I think that's his name, Viva La Frey. It's like a YouTuber, I think. Yeah, he's a Canadian guy. I went to like this little YouTube boot camp thing. Viva Frey, life is meant to be shared. He's a lawyer. Looks like he's got 418,000 subscribers. Nice enough guy. I don't want to say I've met him. I'm going to say we're friends or anything, but he's a Canadian guy that comes to mind. Yeah, Veronica, your lovely lady is very wise not to on camera. Yes, social media can be very mean. Oh, yeah. And I've tried to explain to her, you should come on, but guess what? No matter what you do or you say, you're going to offend somebody. No matter how you say it, you will be criticized in some way or another. Scott, they're eating. I've never actually seen a grit. I'm telling you, grits are the best. I love grits. You got to go to the South for really good grits. Okay, this was biscuits and gravy. Let's see here. Sausage, egg, and biscuit, baked easy. It was amazing. Yeah, and yesterday, let's just put it this way. I sat in the car yesterday. I had biscuits and gravy for breakfast. I sat in the car, had a Red Bull or two, go to a proffer, come back, drive to Grand Junction, then go to a nice little Mexican restaurant there in Grand Junction, completely eat more than I should have. And let's just say I wasn't feeling very good about myself. Let's just put it that way. I wasn't feeling very good about myself for sure. Shouldn't have had those sopapillas to go. Oh, it was terrible. Oh, jeez. See, Susan, Scott, look a little closer. Count how many churches in these small towns, havens for pedophiles. Susan, I'm not saying it doesn't happen in small towns. It happens in big towns as well. There's just a lot of people that aren't wired correctly, for sure. So I wouldn't say there's more of it in small towns. Per capita, I don't think that's the case. But hey, it's wrong anywhere it takes place, right? Let's see here. Wow. All right. Wow, we went a little long tonight, but I guess, we could... Scott, you're Irish. I know it's like cream of wheat. Yeah, I can't do... it's kind of like cream of wheat, yeah. Do you still have me in a timeout for saying defund the police? I didn't do that. Mad Chicago. Mad Chicago. Do you send me for defund the police? I'm not sure exactly. Let's see. View deleted message. Do you still have me in timeout? This is from Mad Chicago for saying defund the police. Hey, you can say defund the police. I don't mind that. That would not. Let it stay up for all I care. I'm just telling you. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea. What can you say? A lot of places have tried it, and crime hasn't gone down. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, right? But one would think that that's not it. When you let out a bunch of people that were traditionally locked up and are out committing crime on a repeated basis because they get out and out and out. Justin, J4, moved to South Dakota, no income tax, and we're awesome here. Actually, South Dakota, I've been there many times. North Dakota too, but man, it gets cold up there. I was just up in South Dakota. Took lovely Miss Kristen and her daughter and daughter's friend. We went up to see the Mount Rushmore. God, I had a brain freeze there. It's literally like an hour flight from here. It's super fast, super fast, and did it and home. Do it live. Okay. Big in the South, yeah. All right. Well, wow, we've got about an hour and a half tonight. Went a little long. The least I could do for having to cancel for last night. Apologize for that. I truly do. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Obviously, we talked about Mark Means. What is going on there? Somebody seems like they're maybe losing it just a little bit. Ghislaine Maxwell case. The prosecutor may be just screwing this thing up. And I bet we have a decision tomorrow by this time for Jussie Smollett. We'll have to wait and see. All right, if you haven't done so, we're going to do our Patreon show shortly once we end here. And that's right. I'm not going to forget this time, all our Patreon people. We will do the Magic 8 Ball. We will ask the Magic 8 Ball questions. And I think we're even going to be able to put it under light, even with the low water in the Magic 8 Ball. We'll be able to see how it came up. Magic 8 Ball hasn't really been wrong, so wait and see. All right, thanks for watching. Appreciate everyone joining us. Know you have lots of things you could do. Thank you for being here. Like I said, I haven't done it before. Subscribe, hit that like button, and hit that little bell so you receive notification when we go live. We'll see all our Patreons in just a few minutes. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.